February 26, 1991, 73 Easting, Iraq-Kuwait border. Staff Sergeant Robert Patterson occupies the gunner's position in an M2 Bradley fighting vehicle assigned to Ghost Troop, 2nd Squadron, 2nd Armored Cavalry Regiment. Through his thermal sight, Patterson detects vehicle heat signatures at 3,500 meters range. The thermal image resolves into Iraqi T-72 tanks moving in column formation, apparently unaware of American forces positioned ahead. Patterson alerts his vehicle commander, identifies the lead tank as priority target, and initiates launch sequence for a BGM-71 TOW missile. The missile launches from the Bradley's launcher tube at 0643 hours. Two thin wires unspool behind the weapon as it accelerates toward the target. Patterson keeps his thermal sight crosshairs centered on the lead T-72's center mass. The Bradley's guidance system transmits steering commands through the wires, adjusting the missile's flight path continuously. 21 seconds after launch, the TOW-2's shaped charge warhead impacts the T-72's turret. The Iraqi tank becomes a disabled vehicle. The T-72 crew never saw the Bradley. They never had opportunity to return fire. Their 125mm main gun, effective to approximately 2,000 meters, couldn't reach a target 3.5 kilometers distant. Patterson's vehicle commander orders engagement of the second tank in column. Another TOW missile launches. Another T-72 becomes disabled 20 seconds later. The Iraqi column halts in confusion. Iraqi tank commanders don't understand where the engagement originates. Their thermal sights, if operational, can't detect the Bradley at this range through the smoke and dust. Iraqi doctrine emphasized closing with enemy armor rapidly to exploit their 125mm gun's power. But closing requires knowing where the enemy is positioned, and the Iraqis can't see their opponents. American infantry, equipped with anti-tank missiles and thermal sights, defeats Iraqi armor from beyond visual range. This is not the war Iraq prepared to fight. Iraqi confidence in their armored forces reflected real combat experience and Soviet equipment assessments. The T-72M export model, supplied to Iraq by the Soviet Union throughout the 1980s, represented capable armor by international standards. The T-72M mounted a 125mm smoothbore main gun capable of penetrating contemporary Western armor at combat ranges. The tank featured composite armor protection across its frontal arc. The crew of 3 included a commander, gunner, and driver, with an autoloader handling main gun ammunition to increase rate of fire. Iraqi tank crews had extensive combat experience from 8 years of war against Iran, where T-72s generally performed effectively against Iranian armor, consisting primarily of older Western designs. Iraqi doctrine emphasized aggressive armored tactics developed during the Iran-Iraq War. Iraqi commanders expected to close rapidly with enemy forces, using speed and numbers to overwhelm opposition, before superior Western technology could be brought to bear effectively. Iraqi assessments of American light armor reflected Soviet intelligence analysis. The M2 Bradley, weighing 27 tons compared to the T-72's 41 tons, appeared to Iraqi planners as a lightly armored transport vehicle, rather than a genuine combat platform. Iraqi officers believed their T-72s would engage American armor at close range, where Iraqi numerical superiority and crew experience would prove decisive. These Iraqi assessments failed to account for American technology that changed armored warfare fundamentals. The TOW missile system transformed light vehicles into tank killers capable of engaging enemy armor from ranges where enemy tanks couldn't respond. The BGM-71 tube launched. Optically tracked, wire-guided missile emerged from US Army requirements established in the 1960s. The Army needed a man-portable anti-tank weapon capable of engaging Soviet armor at extended range with high probability of success. Hughes Aircraft developed the BGM-71 system, which entered service in 1970. The basic design proved so effective that continuous improvements and variants kept TOW missiles in frontline service for more than 5 decades. The BGM-71 TOW variant, deployed during Desert Storm, represented substantial advancement over earlier versions. The missile measured approximately 4 feet in length and weighed 47 pounds at launch. A 127mm shaped charge warhead provided the primary anti-armor capability, able to penetrate 31 inches of rolled homogeneous armor equivalent. This penetration capability exceeded the protective value of any tank's frontal armor and certainly exceeded T-72M export model protection levels. The TOW-2's maximum range of 3,750 meters gave crews engagement capability at distances where most tank main guns struggled to achieve accuracy. Wire guidance distinguished TOW missiles from previous anti-tank weapons. 2 fine wires spooled from the missile during flight, maintaining physical connection between the missile and the launcher throughout the engagement. The gunner kept his sight crosshairs on the target, while the guidance system measured the angular difference between the line of sight to the target and the missile's actual flight path. The system transmitted steering commands through the wires, guiding the missile onto target with exceptional accuracy. This guidance method proved immune to electronic countermeasures because no radio frequencies were involved. Enemy attempts to jam or deceive radio-guided weapons had no effect on wire-guided TOW missiles. The TOW system achieved remarkable versatility through multiple launch platforms. Infantry could employ TOW missiles from ground-mounted tripods, providing dismounted forces with genuine anti-armor capability. The M2 and M3 Bradley fighting vehicles mounted dual TOW launchers, transforming infantry fighting vehicles into formidable tank killers. High-mobility multi-purpose wheeled vehicles carried TOW systems, giving light forces rapid anti-armor response capability. AH-1 Cobra and AH-64, Apache attack helicopters, carried TOW missiles, enabling aerial platforms to engage armor from standoff ranges. This platform flexibility meant that Iraqi armor faced TOW threats from ground forces, mechanized infantry, and attack helicopters simultaneously. Hughes Aircraft and later Raytheon produced TOW missiles at scale that reflected American industrial capacity. Each TOW-2 missile cost approximately $60,000 in 1990. Expensive compared to conventional ammunition, but affordable when compared to the multi-million-dollar tanks the weapons could neutralize. The US Army procured TOW missiles by the thousands, ensuring adequate stockpiles for intensive combat operations. By 1991, total TOW missile production exceeded 700,000 units, making it the most widely fielded anti-tank guided weapon in Western arsenals. The thermal sight systems integrated with TOW launchers provided critical tactical advantages. Thermal imaging detected heat signatures from vehicles, personnel, and equipment, regardless of visible light conditions. TOW gunners could identify targets in complete darkness through smoke, dust, and adverse weather that rendered visual observation impossible. Iraqi forces possessed limited thermal sight capability on their most modern equipment, and most Iraqi vehicles relied on conventional optical sights that required adequate lighting. American thermal sight superiority meant American crews detected Iraqi forces first in most encounters, gaining first-shot advantage that often proved decisive. The Battle of 73 Easting on February 26 and 27, 1991, demonstrated TOW effectiveness against Iraqi armor under actual combat conditions. The 2nd Armored Cavalry Regiment advanced through Iraqi defensive positions during the ground offensive's second day. Iraqi Republican Guard forces, considered Iraq's most capable units, occupied prepared defensive positions with T-72 tanks and BMP infantry fighting vehicles. Weather conditions included limited visibility from smoke and blowing sand. Iraqi forces expected to engage American armor at close range, where their numerical superiority and defensive preparations would provide advantages. American Bradley fighting vehicles detected Iraqi positions through thermal sights at ranges exceeding 3,000 meters. TOW missiles engaged Iraqi armor before Iraqi forces identified American positions. Staff Sergeant Nels Moller, a Bradley gunner with Eagle Troop, successfully engaged an Iraqi T-72 at 3,000 meters, then traversed to a second target and engaged successfully at 2,900 meters. His Bradley crew neutralized 4 Iraqi vehicles in approximately 5 minutes without receiving return fire because Iraqi forces couldn't locate the American position or range it effectively even if located. Similar engagements repeated across the battlefield. Lieutenant John Gifford commanded a Bradley that engaged 8 Iraqi vehicles during the battle, primarily with TOW missiles at ranges between 2,500 and 3,500 meters. Iraqi attempts to return fire proved ineffective because Iraqi gunners couldn't accurately determine range to targets they could barely see through smoke and dust. American thermal sights penetrated these obscurants easily, maintaining clear target identification throughout the engagement. The technological advantage proved so decisive that American casualties remained minimal despite engaging numerically superior Iraqi forces. TOW-equipped high-mobility, multi-purpose wheeled vehicles operated as mobile anti-armor teams, positioning themselves in concealed locations and engaging Iraqi armor with minimal exposure. These light vehicles could move rapidly between firing positions, engage targets, and relocate before Iraqi forces could respond. The combination of long-range engagement capability and mobility made these TOW teams remarkably effective at disrupting Iraqi armor movements and creating defensive obstacles that channeled Iraqi forces into engagement areas covered by heavier American systems. Attack helicopters employing TOW missiles achieved remarkable success rates against Iraqi armor. AH-1 Cobra helicopters, carrying 8 TOW missiles each, engaged Iraqi vehicle columns from standoff positions that placed the helicopters beyond effective range of Iraqi air defense systems. Cobra crews reported engagements where single helicopters neutralized multiple vehicles per mission without receiving effective return fire. The combination of aerial observation, thermal sights, and long-range missiles gave attack helicopters capability to dominate Iraqi armor across wide areas. Iraqi perspective on these engagements reflected shock and confusion. Iraqi tank commanders trained to fight close-range battles where crew skill and aggressive tactics determined outcomes. Instead, they faced opponents they couldn't see, engaging them from ranges their doctrine never addressed. Iraqi tanks attempted to close with American positions, but closing required knowing where those positions were located. Iraqi forces moving towards suspected American positions found themselves under engagement from multiple directions by opponents who remained invisible. Iraqi attempts to employ smoke screens provided no protection against thermal sights that detected heat signatures through smoke. Iraqi tactical responses proved ineffective against American combined arms tactics, employing thermal sights and long-range precision weapons. Captured Iraqi officers consistently reported that American engagement ranges exceeded anything their training or experience prepared them for. An Iraqi tank company commander stated during interrogation that his unit never saw the American vehicles that engaged them. His first indication of combat came when tanks in his formation began suffering damage from weapons impacts. He ordered his unit to return fire, but his crews couldn't identify targets. He ordered withdrawal, but additional vehicles sustained damage during the maneuver. His company lost 9 of 14 tanks without ever successfully engaging American forces. This experience repeated throughout Iraqi armored units during the ground campaign. The technological disparities extended beyond the weapons themselves. TOW missiles provided the engagement capability, but thermal sights provided the detection capability that made effective employment possible. Iraqi forces equipped primarily with conventional optical sights couldn't detect American vehicles at the ranges where TOW missiles could engage. Even when Iraqi thermal sights were operational, their quality and reliability fell short of American systems. American crews spotted Iraqi forces first, achieved firing solutions first, and engaged first. This consistent pattern of American first-shot advantage proved as important as the weapons technology itself. Training differences compounded equipment disparities. Iraqi tank crews trained for close-range engagements, emphasizing rapid target acquisition and quick shots at ranges under 2,000 meters. Iraqi gunners practiced engaging targets they could see clearly through their sights. TOW engagements occurred at ranges where Iraqi gunners had little experience operating. American crews trained extensively at maximum engagement ranges, understanding that utilizing their technology advantages required engaging at distances where those advantages proved decisive. American doctrine emphasized long-range precision engagement. Iraqi doctrine emphasized close-range shock action, and the mismatch between doctrines determined tactical outcomes. The strategic impact of TOW effectiveness during Desert Storm influenced military planning worldwide. The demonstration that light armored vehicles equipped with advanced anti-tank guided missiles could defeat main battle tanks fundamentally changed thinking about armored warfare. Nations re-evaluated the balance between heavy armor and precision-guided anti-tank systems. The emphasis on thermal sights and long-range engagement capability became standard requirements for modern armored vehicle design. Iraqi experience demonstrated that armor alone provided insufficient protection against precision-guided weapons employed by crews with superior sensors. Modern TOW variants remain in US Army service as of 2025, 55 years after the system's initial introduction. The TOW-2B variant introduced in the 1990s employs a top attack profile, flying over target vehicles and firing penetrators downward into the thinner top armor. This design defeats reactive armor systems and modern composite armor more effectively than direct attack warheads. The continuing service life of TOW systems reflects both the soundness of the original design concept and American ability to modernize weapons through incremental improvements that maintain effectiveness against evolving threats. Total TOW missile production exceeding 700,000 units demonstrates the scale of American procurement and the weapon's acceptance across multiple allied nations. More than 40 countries employ TOW missiles, making it the standard anti-tank guided weapon throughout Western and Allied forces. This widespread adoption validates the design's effectiveness and reliability across decades of service in diverse environments and tactical situations. The story of TOW missile employment during Desert Storm illustrates how precision-guided weapons and advanced sensors combine to create tactical advantages that traditional armor cannot overcome through sheer mass or crew skill. Iraqi T-72 tanks represented capable armor by international standards, crewed by soldiers with substantial combat experience. But capability and experience meant nothing when Iraqi forces couldn't detect opponents engaging them from beyond effective response range. American doctrine that emphasized long-range precision engagement, supported by thermal sights and wire-guided missiles, proved decisively superior to Iraqi doctrine, emphasizing close-range shock action. Iraq expected tank-on-tank battles where numerical superiority and crew experience would provide advantages. America fought with infantry equipped with technology that outranged Iraqi armor, with thermal sights that detected Iraqi forces before Iraqi crews saw anything, and with missiles that penetrated armor from distances where Iraqi guns couldn't respond effectively. The TOW missile system, developed 2 decades before Desert Storm, proved that properly employed anti-tank guided weapons transformed light vehicles into tank killers, capable of defeating heavy armor on favorable terms. That transformation changed armored warfare fundamentally, and Iraqi forces in 1991 learned that lesson through devastating experience. When Staff Sergeant Patterson engaged that T-72 from 3.5 kilometers away, he demonstrated capability that Iraqi doctrine never anticipated and Iraqi technology couldn't counter. 21 seconds of flight time, 31 inches of penetration, and 1 more disabled Iraqi tank. That pattern repeated 10,000 times during Desert Storm, and TOW missiles remain in service today, still effective, still outranging enemy armor, still representing the weapon system that proved infantry could defeat tanks from beyond visual range.